talk about leaves. And right now, my yard is full of them. And right now is not the best time to make tea out of some of the ones that are in my yard. But we're going to talk about leaves today. And what does scripture mean when it talks about leaves? And so we're going to talk just a little bit about that today. And I'm quite excited about sharing this with you because, as you know, from Genesis to Revelation, it starts with a tree and it ends with a tree. And I love that, how God has a garden in the beginning, he has a garden at the end, but right now we get to enjoy, parts of his garden even in our life today. And so many lessons with that as well. But today we're going to talk about, so by the end of this lesson today, I'm going to teach you leaves that you can harvest, leaves that you can kind of preserve, give them as a gift, but definitely enjoy the nutritional benefits, but also the spiritual application. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. And if you think, wow, I really love this type of teaching, then I need to tell you, this is just a small snippet of one of the classes that we're going to be doing at the Biblical Wellness Retreat coming up in just a couple of weeks. I can't believe it's almost already here. I am so excited. My house is blowing up with plants and food and things getting ready, because one of the classes I'm teaching is about this topic as well. So about leaves and about dehydrating and how to get nutritional benefit out of just such a delicious morning treat with drinking leaves, drinking tea with leaves in it. So, but here's what I want to tell you. Before we end today, we are giving away 3 gifts. So stay tuned to the end for 1, a very special announcement, and 2, you might be the winner of one of our 3 gifts. And one of the gifts is going to be the complete recording package of the retreat. Because if you've been saying, wow, I really want to be there, but I just can't make it, well, then you might want to hang in to the end and see if you're the winner of our Biblical Wellness Retreat recordings. And that is all of the speakers, and that is the classes, the breakouts, really good stuff, and you're going to enjoy it. You just think you could share that with your friends, you could have people over, you could do your own cooking classes just from the videos alone. But for those of you who are like me, you're like, no, I'm done with Zoom, I'm done with YouTube, I just want to be there in person. Okay, yes, you're my kind of person, because I'm ready to be there in person. So stay tuned to the end. We have 3 gifts for giving away. 1 is the retreat recordings. The second is, hey, if you're like, I really want to go to those cooking classes that are happening at the retreat, well, we're going to give you a free ticket to that. And if you're like, I just kind of don't know if I can make it to the retreat, but I really want to go, then we're going to give away 1 retreat ticket at the end of this too. So stay tuned to the end so that you can see if you're going to be one of those 3 winners. Well, I want to share with you a story. At our last retreat, one woman, she came up to me. She was pretty much exhausted and burned out and just unsure if she even wanted to try one more, you know what it is, health event. Whether you're watching health events on YouTube or on TV, it's like sometimes you can just hit the point where it's like, no more. They don't work for me. I just need something that will work. Well, that's how she came to the retreat. But she thought, I'll just do one more. And if it doesn't work, I'm done. I'm not going to try this anymore. I'm just going to eat what I want and live however. But after 3 days of learning and cooking and fellowshipping and having worship together with like-minded people, and you know what I mean by like-minded people, she said, I feel like God gave me my joy back. Woo, that's exciting things. And that's why I love this retreat. So that's what happens when we step away for 3 days and we immerse ourselves in God's design and just believe that it can happen for you too. All right, so enough of that. Let's get into the leaves that are healing for the nations. And one time I was doing this cooking class at a base, Fort Leonard Wood base in the center of Missouri, in an Army base there. And they had to come to these cooking classes because they were trying to get their weight in order so they could pass their PT scores. And so I was brought in to teach them how to cook healthy and eat healthy. And so I was doing a smoothie class. And I started throwing in the strawberries. Well, I threw in the strawberries just as you see it on the screen with the green tops attached. Well, they just started gasping, like, what are you doing? I said, what did I do? What did I do wrong? And they said, you threw in the leaves. And I said, there's more, Kathy, can you grab the mute? There's more vitamin C in the leaves of the strawberry than there actually are in the strawberry fruit. And it's kind of interesting because when my grandchildren are out in my garden picking strawberries, they always cut off the top. And I'm like, oh, no, you're missing the best part, because the leaves are there for healing. And the leaves are healing for us as well. So I'm not sure how many of those people from the army went home and started eating the leaves on their strawberries, or they did it for fun. They may not taste quite as good as the strawberry, but the healing benefits are definitely there. Well, today I'm going to share with you how you also can enjoy the leaves for healing. I mean, most of us eat the fruit and we toss the leaves, but that is where the powerhouse of healing compounds God has designed for us. So just to talk about a couple of the fruits that we're going to talk about today, and one is raspberry and strawberry leaves. These are very soothing for digestion. These are incredibly powerful. These are incredibly powerful for women's health, especially, during certain times of the month. If the women had some leaves of the raspberry leaf, that's loaded with antioxidants, but it's very calming, it's very muscle relaxing. And think about that. We eat the raspberries. How many of us have actually collected the leaves? And I'm going to tell you how to collect the leaves too. But so raspberry and strawberry leaves are very good for digestion and just for calming the stomach. And then move on to blueberries. Now, I love my blueberry bushes that are outside my kitchen window, and I just have to beat the squirrel to the blueberries. Yes, the cardinals hang out there too, but I have to beat the squirrel because he'll just clear an entire branch in one afternoon. But if I can beat him, although he doesn't eat the leaves, so I may be ahead on that part. But anyway, the blueberry leaves are actually, they're rich in a chlorogenic acid and a quercetin. And these are excellent for blood sugar control and for calming and getting rid of inflammation. I know we don't normally think of that, about the leaves of the plants being such a healing property. If you go on to apple and peach leaves, these are calming again for digestion, but also relaxation. So I'm going to teach you how to gather these leaves, how to steep these leaves, and how to just enjoy a cup of tea with these leaves. And we're also going to continue to look at the biblical application of this. So hang in there. And then last is persimmon leaves. And this is good for blood pressure and circulation. And so what we have in the persimmon leaves, now the persimmon tree that I have in my yard, the persimmons, I forget the title of them, but they're hard like an apple. They're not that mushy persimmon that I just do not like at all. These are so delicious, but they're packed with vitamin C and flavonoids. Now you think I'm talking about the fruit, but I'm not. I'm talking about the leaves. And this is going to be really good. So these leaves, they all contain flavonoids, polyphenols, quercetin, catechins, and even resveratrol. Now, resveratrol has been studied a lot in pretty much the last 10 to 12 years because of its longevity effect, because how it adds growth to the telomeres, and it just helps people to stay young longer. And that's what most people are looking for. Like, I don't mind my years going up, but I don't want my age to go up with it. I don't want to look older or act older. I want to stay young and to enjoy life. Now, just as you think these compounds are good in the fruit, which they are, the leaves sometimes can have a higher concentration. And so that's amazing for all of us. Well, science is catching up with what scripture has been telling us all along. God created leaves with healing in them. So last year, one of my friends dried raspberry, apple, and strawberry leaves from her garden, and she mixed them into these little tea jars. So she gathered the leaves in the spring, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then she dried them and put them in these cute little jars and gave them away as Christmas gifts and housewarming gifts. And then put a little recipe on there, how the jars had a little tag. And then she also, on the back side of that, put a little verse that says, "The leaves are for the healing of the nations," in Revelation 22:2. So it wasn't just a gift of tea, it was a gift of hope and health and scripture. So think about that. Can your kitchen become a ministry tool like that? Can your kitchen shelf have all these little gifts on it waiting to give to someone who shows up? Or maybe even take one with you to church or to a function and say, "Hey, I was thinking about you, praying for you, so I thought I'd give you this little tea jar, and you can make your own tea out of it." All right, so let's look at these leaves. So again, the medicinal property, we've got antioxidants, we have, and actually the blueberry leaves to help with protect cells from damage and support overall health. We've got cardiovascular support in the blueberries alone, reducing inflammation, improving circulation. And then even the blueberry can complement diets that promote wellness. There's so much that we can learn from. And then moving on back to the strawberries, antioxidants help protect against free radicals. I teach all about free radicals in that Treasures of Healthy Living DVD series. The anti-inflammatory effects. So much is happening around us today that inflammation is skyrocketing, and it hurts. We know it hurts, but inflammation is just a symptom that something else is wrong, and we need to go in and identify it. So anytime we can have leaves, such as the strawberry leaf that is anti-inflammatory, and enjoy it as a nice, peaceful cup of tea, then that's the way I like to take my medicine. All right, and then putting it all together. So when and how to harvest. So we're just talking about the raspberry, the blueberry, and the strawberry leaves. So when should we harvest these? So the best is always going to be spring to midsummer. Now, don't go take all of the leaves off of the strawberry plants or all of the leaves off your apple tree, which I don't think you would, because the tree needs its leaves. But we're looking for that new growth on your apple tree, that new growth on the peach tree, because those are going to be the highest in concentration of nutrition, and they're going to have the best flavor. If I were to pick leaves in the fall, they're going to be more bitter because so much of the nutrition has gone back into the root and the trunk of the tree. And so we also lose the potency. And then how to harvest. We're looking for mid-morning after the dew has dried. We don't want any moisture on the leaves at all. So it's going to be more about the strawberries than the other two, because the other two are going to dry quickly. And then how to preserve them. So let's look at this a little bit more. So optimal harvest timing is going to be the leaves must be harvested during their growing season. That way we're going to get the highest quality and potency for our tea. We want to make sure there's nothing wrong with the leaf, no damage, no bugs, and make sure these trees have never been sprayed with any pesticides or fungicides, because that obviously would not be a good choice. And then after we harvest them, we just taken the leaf, we're not taking the stems, we just want the leaves. We want them to dry in a well-ventilated area. For me, I like to dry them in the dehydrator. But yes, you can totally just tie these together and dry them in a nice dry place where they're not going to get any moisture, and just make sure they're thoroughly dry. And then to store them, you can use mason jars, as long as it's an airtight container away from light, so that it stays nice and fresh for you. So this is like free food. Anytime I get free food, like I have herbs that continue their perennials, they grow every year, or if I get volunteer plants, right now I have a tomato volunteer plant that has given me more tomatoes than all of the tomatoes I planted myself. And sometimes I wonder, why am I doing this? But with this, the strawberries are growing every year. They continue to grow for years. Your raspberry plants continue to grow and populate. And your blueberry is an ongoing bush. So you have ongoing nutritional value just from plants that are already in your yard. And so making herbal teas. But before we go there, I just want to step back into scripture. And so think about this. So from Genesis to Revelation, leaves carry a story. In Genesis 3, after Adam and Eve sinned, they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. But those leaves could never cover sin. Only the blood of the Lamb of Jesus can do that. What man tried to do with leaves failed, but God himself provided the true covering. And so when we look at the fig leaves, which are very abundant right now, the figs are very abundant right now. And as we walk around the fig trees with our kids, just remember as we teach them about the fig leaves. Yes, fig leaves, we can actually dry those as well, but I prefer the spring ones. But let the tree be a point of teaching as a reminder of what God has come to do. But then we move all the way to Revelation 22:2, and it says, on the other side of the river was the tree of life, and the leaves of the tree were for healing of the nations. So isn't that just incredible? What could not cover sin in the garden will one day bring healing for every nation. That's God's story of redemption, and it's written in the trees, and it's written in the leaves. But scripture doesn't stop there. All throughout the Bible, leaves are used as a picture of either life and flourishing with God, or withering apart from him. So look at Psalm 103. Let me go down to. So let's look at Psalm 1, verses 3. It says that the righteous man will be like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. Well, right now in my yard, my leaves are withering. It's going into fall. It's going into a season where they're all going to drop their leaves. But in Psalm, the righteous man is going to be like a man who never has leaves that wither, will always be strong and vibrant. And then in Jeremiah 17, it tells us, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. He will be like a tree planted by the water. Its leaves will be green. It will not be anxious in a year of drought. So that water is is the water of life. And then we go into Isaiah, and this is where we is like, but without God, leaves are going to fade. You will be like an oak whose leaf fades away, or as a garden that has no water. Water represents salvation. Water represents life. And so without that, the leaves are going to fade. They're going to wither. They're going to die away. And then in Ezekiel, it says, we're given a preview of Revelation where it says their fruit will be for food and their leaves for healing. Anytime you want to understand Revelation better, just go back into Daniel and Ezekiel and put all three of those together, and you have a perfect ending story to what Scripture is teaching us. And then in Matthew 24, Jesus used leaves as a sign of readiness. When the fig tree puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So do you see the thread? Leaves remind us of God's design. They can wither when cut off from Him, or they can stay green and healing when rooted in living water. And that's only through Jesus Christ. So when you pick raspberry leaves for tea or blueberry leaves for health, don't just think of it as a natural remedy. Let it remind you of this picture. God calls you to be like a tree planted by living waters, unshaken in drought, fruitful in season, and flourishing with leaves that bring healing. So imagine this. Instead of tossing away those raspberry leaves or those blueberry prunings, just dry them and steep them and sip them into a healing tea. Let me go back to that. And let's go over that. We can have these healing teas, and they can always be a reminder of God's provision for us physically and spiritually. So going back to those tea leaves that you dehydrated. So let's say you go through your garden in the spring and the early summer, and you start cutting off some young growth on your trees and your bushes, and you start dehydrating them either by tying them up in a dry place, or my preference is always a dehydrator because it's very controlled environment and it always works. So here's what we do is we go ahead and we dry them until they're just, very crisp and there's no moisture left. You can then store them in a mason jar, and just make sure you label the mason jar. And then go ahead and you can actually kind of powder them down if you wanted to, or you can leave them in the leaf shape. It's totally up to you how you store them. Typically, I crunch them down a bit so I can get more in the jar, but you really only want to dry enough for a full year because you always want fresh leaves every year. And then you would use 1 to 2 teaspoons of your dried berry leaves steeped in hot water for 5 to 10 minutes for the best flavor. Now, sometimes with teas that you buy from the tea shop or any of the different tea stores, it's usually you steep it for 2 to 3 minutes. But in this case, this is 5 to 10 minutes for best flavor. And then you can make varieties. You can mix them. You can have raspberry, blueberry, and strawberry. They each offer their own unique flavor, but you can mix any of them that you want. And they can be enjoyed together, or they can be enjoyed by themselves, or you can throw in some mint leaves at the same time. So let's look at some blending ideas. You can add mint or lemon balm or honey, ginger. Any of these would enhance the tea flavor and the aroma. Combining the berry leaves, it creates more a robust flavor, and you're unlimited in flavor opportunities that you can put together. But definitely the blended teas offer a very enjoyable taste. Now, I thought this would be a fun class to have with you here online and on YouTube, because this is one of the classes I'm teaching at the Biblical Wellness Retreat. And not just about tea, we're going to be making our own superfood powder. I've got dried mushrooms, I've got dried beets, I've got so many dried foods in my kitchen right now. My dehydrator's been going nonstop. And I'm quite excited about this class, because I want to offer everyone a chance to come in and just reclaim their health. The leaves will be healing for the nation. There's going to be a lot more leaves than what I've shared here. These are just common plants that we all have in our home and in our yard. Not really in our home, but in our yard. Or of someone who does. And that's why I wanted you to see that it's very possible that we can enjoy the leaves that God has put out there for healing, not just the fruits that are there, but the leaves that are there for us as well. So what I want to share with you is the Reclaim Retreat is coming up in just over 2 weeks. This is going to be the most exceptional event you have ever heard of. In fact, the speakers that we have lined up for this are amazing speakers. Besides myself, we have Tina Griffin. Tina Griffin is considered, well, she calls herself the counterculture mom. Well, right now, with what's going on in our society, we need to understand how to protect our families. So it's not just about physical wellness, it's about spiritual wellness and mental wellness as well. So she's going to come. Carol Graham is going to be there teaching about prayer. Dr. Jay Hitson's going to be there, Dr. Milton Bastidas. So we have 2 physicians coming to help you get the answers you're looking for your health. And then we have Rhonda Carroll and Linda Goldfarb, who really help us bring a complete package for you. We have more people coming, and it's going to be in our team presenting than I have space on the screen. But the main thing is this: we want to welcome you. We want to invite you to take 3 days and just say, world, I'm going to silence you for 3 days. And I'm going to set aside this time to go to the retreat so I can hear from the Lord, and I can let the Lord teach me on the healing that I can see happen. And it can happen starting as soon as you get to the retreat center. Now, if you say, Annette, where is it? Well, it's in Missouri. It's at Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, the most beautiful place I could ever invite you to, and the most anointed ground that I've ever been on. And so just think about the fact that we have cooking classes that are all about what to do with raw milk, how to make your own sourdough, how to use ancient greens, how to use herbs for healing. And my class is about, just drying food to save money, but also the healing benefit we get from that. We have speakers talking about autoimmunity and how you can reverse it, cancer disease, how you can reverse that. We have so much going on at this retreat, and it's all just for you so that you can come on board and you can say, I am ready to reclaim my health, reclaim my food, reclaim my relationships, and reclaim my future. That's what this is going to be about. Such amazing speakers, and they all bring just a unique piece of healing to this event. So I'm going to ask you, are you willing to take 3 days out of your normal routine and say, Lord, I just need 3 days to reclaim my health. I just need 3 days so I can help reclaim the health of my family, because you're the one who takes care of them. And so, yeah, these are some pictures from last year. And yeah, Linda gets a little goofy down here, as you can see, but everyone has an amazing time as they hear from the Lord, they learn, and they enjoy our fabulous organic meals every day. So, Kathy, I'm going to ask you to let me know just by speaking out loud and letting us know so we can tell the people who needs to put their name and address in the drawing, because we're going to be giving away those 3 gifts. And the 3 gifts, again, are the recordings, a full set of the recordings if you're like, I just really can't make it this year. So you might want to get in on those recordings. So if Kathy's going to be drawing from everyone who's attending right now. And then if you're saying, hey, well, if you don't win, then I definitely invite you to make the investment and get the recordings for yourself and for your family. Maybe you're going to have women come over, or men come over, or families come over, and you just watch the recordings together, and you have your own mini retreat in your own home or in your church. Definitely having these recordings. They will be available by November 1st. So we do the recordings at the event, and then we get them put together into a package, and then we get them ready for you by November 1st. But they're only on sale for $97 until September 17th, and then they go up to $147. So you definitely want to go to biblicalwellnessretreat.com and grab that quickly. And the other thing is the retreat. So let me just go ahead and stop sharing so I can watch my screen and check the chat box and see what else going on there. I would like to know, and Kathy, you can just put it in the chat box, who our winners are. And I would like to know which one of you is willing to say, you know what, I'm ready for the leaves of the trees to be healing for my body. And you're ready to go out and start gathering leaves from just all the different plants that are in your yard. I recommend it in the spring. So we have a lot of followers in Australia. So you're kind of the opposite of us as far as the seasons. But how many of you, just give us a thumbs up either on YouTube or in the chat box on Zoom. How many of you are ready to start experiencing healing with the leaves of the trees? All right, so some people don't have a garden, but someone around you has these, and they're probably thinking, well, sure, I could let you have a few leaves off of my bush, or I can a few leaves off of my trees. And, I will say I have gone through nurseries and stuff and just like sometimes if they have fruit, it's like, oh, well, that fruit's going to go bad. And it's like, hey, I'm going to grab your fruit and just pick off a tomato. But you can just go through, I guess, nurseries and pick off a few leaves or ask them, can I pick off a few leaves? All right. So yes, the video package of the full retreat. So put my name in for that drawing. All right, Mary, I see that. And yeah, so Baltimore, Maryland's not too far to travel. We have people come from other countries to this retreat. You can definitely make it. Okay, Australia, you'd be the farthest to arrive there, but we would definitely love to see you at the retreat. But yeah, so make sure you check out biblicalwellnessretreat.com. So we're going to be giving away the recordings and also 2 tickets to give away. So Kathy, if you can just put it in the Zoom chat box, the name of the winner, then we can give those away.
I have winner number 1 and winner number 2 in the chat box.
Okay, let me find that. All right. So Kathy, just go ahead and tell us who is the winner of the recordings.
The recordings is going to go to Chris Fackler, Fackler. And I will need an email address so we can email the link to him.
All right, Chris. So be sure and give us your email address, and you can either put it in the chat box or you can email your email address to info@thebiblicalnutritionist.com. And so that's our first winner. The second winner is going to get a free ticket to a full day of cooking classes. When I used to pay for cooking training classes, I was paying $100 for one class. You get to choose from 12 classes. You only get to attend 4, but you get 4 classes of cooking. So from 9 to 4, you're going to be cooking, you're going to be making your lunch, and you're going to have a really good time. So Kathy, who's going to be, yeah, Debbie, I understand that you really need that. And it's just fun. It's just going to be a lot of fun. And some people can come just for the cooking classes. If you're like, you know what, I can come for one day and that's what I want to come for, then you should be there. Especially, no matter where you live, it's just going to be a really good day. We have some incredible classes lined up. I mean, you have 12 options. I mean, the hard part's going to be not getting there. It's going to be choosing between the 12. All right, Kathy, so who do you have for that?
For the second prize, I have Patricia Sales.
All right, Patricia Sales, you are our winner for the cooking class. So be sure and email info@thebiblicalnutritionist.com if you want to connect with her there, and we can give you all the details for that gift. All right, and the last free ticket is to the conference, to the retreat itself. So Thursday night through Saturday. I can't wait to see you there. So I just pray, Lord, you know who needs this ticket, and you know who is to be blessed with it, and everyone else, I still want to see you there. So Kathy, who is the one who should get that free ticket to the retreat?
I have drawn Amy Portugal. I think that's how you say her name. Amy Portugal.
All right, Amy. So again, connect with Kathy through info@thebiblicalnutritionist.com, or you can put your email in the chat box if you wish, however you wish to connect. Thank you, everyone, for letting me share with you. There is so much more I want to teach you about the leaves that are healing for the nations. And I'm going to be teaching a lot about it in my cooking class at the retreat. But you're going to see me teach more and more in the months to come through the YouTube videos, through the different webinars that we do. So I really want to bring all of us to the element of understanding the leaves that are healing for the nations. When it's in Genesis and it's in Revelation, definitely it's something to pay attention to. So I've enjoyed the fruits, I've enjoyed the vegetables. Now let's get to the healing of the leaves. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been a lot of fun to be with you today, and definitely check out the retreat, biblicalwellnessretreat.com. Grab either the recordings or grab the retreat ticket, and we look forward to seeing you there. I can't tell you how much God is at work at that retreat. So, okay, you can even come from Spain. It'll work. We'll
be able to. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, we'll see what we can do for you instead. But thank you for joining us today, even from Spain. We appreciate that.
I would have loved to. My heart is there, but where I'm at right now,
I totally understand. I totally understand. So will they be available at the retreat? Yes, they will. Yes. All right. And so, okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And all right. Thank you for joining us and for being a part of the Biblical Wellness today. And I appreciate you being here. So have a blessed evening.
thank